Hey guys, today I'm reacting to why Ireland split into the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. Let's check it out. I guess. I kind of have some idea of why, with, the British kind of colonizing Northern Ireland, with the Ulster Scots and all that, and, it being, I guess, very Protestant in the past. And, just being more like influenced by the UK and such. So but yeah, there's a lot more that goes into it, of course. Yeah, so let's get into the video. Probably provides a really, I guess, a good definition. Probably a lot more accurate than what I'm talking about, Yeah, so let's get into it.
This is the island of Ireland. The island is politically split between the Republic of Ireland, an independent country, and Northern Ireland, which, together with Scotland, England and Wales, form the United Kingdom. But why exactly is Ireland split, and when did it happen? To fully understand the situation, we need to go all the way back to the 12th century. After the Normans had successfully invaded England and taken the throne, they decided to invade Ireland. Henry II, with the authorisation of Pope Adrian IV to strengthen the papacy's control over the Irish Church, landed in Ireland in 1171 and took control of large parts of the island, and in the following year the Lordship of Ireland was created, in which the Lord of Ireland was also the King of England. The Lordship of Ireland was a papal possession held by the King of England. This was the beginning of what would become centuries of English and later British rule over the island of Ireland. Officially, the Lordship of Ireland ruled over the entire island, but in reality control was
the damn English
much less than this, and over the years, English control of Ireland receded over time.
Yeah.
This was a time before there was a religious difference between Ireland and England. The English and the native Irish were both Catholic nations, as this was a time before the American
Romano-British-born missionary St. Patrick introduced Christianity to Ireland in the 5th century. I think it was Welsh.
of Protestantism. So many of the Normans in Ireland assimilated into Irish culture, and some were said
Although it said Romano-British,
to have become more Irish than the Irish themselves. Laws were introduced which banned intermarriage between English settlers and the Gaelic Irish, as well as a ban on the use of the Irish language, but these laws were largely ineffective.
Yeah, a lot of Norman origin houses, I think. Yeah.
By the late 15th century, English rule was limited to an area known as the Pale. The early 16th century, and what became known as the Protestant Reformation, in which many European powers turned their back on the Roman Catholic Church, forming a new branch of the Christian faith. Although the Reformation was about religion,
lots of terrorism, actually, for the time.
It also had a lot to do with politics as well. With Henry VIII as the King of England, the Pope refused to annul his marriage to Catherine of Aragon. This, as well as other contributing factors, caused Henry VIII to break away from the Roman Catholic Church and establish the Church of England, with himself as the leader. With this, the political situation in Ireland became uncertain, as Ireland was a papal possession with the King of England as Lord of Ireland. In 1542, after an Act of Irish Parliament, Henry VIII was proclaimed King of Ireland, as the Lordship of Ireland became the Kingdom of Ireland. However, Henry VIII was not recognised by the Catholic powers throughout Europe. After Henry VIII's death in 1547, his Protestant-raised 9-year-old son Edward VI ascended to the throne, but he died of illness just a few years later at the age of 15. Mary I, Henry VIII's daughter, was next in line to the throne, and since Mary was nearly 20 years older than her half-brother Edward, she was raised before the Protestant Reformation and was therefore Catholic. Because of this, Mary I was recognised as the Queen of Ireland. Ireland had remained loyal to the Pope, and the island was almost entirely Catholic. In 1603, after the death of Queen Elizabeth I, the last of the Tudor dynasty, James VI of Scotland also became King of England because of his somewhat unique family ancestry, in which he was the son of Mary I, Queen of Scots, and also the great-great-grandson of Henry VII.
Hey, Scottish
known as
though.
James I, King of England.
Pretty cool how Welsh and Scottish people kind of became kings over Britain, and specifically ruled over English people. Pretty cool.
And also King of Ireland as well. This was known as the Union of the Crowns, in which Scotland, England and Ireland all shared a common monarch. In 1609, under James I's reign, the Plantation of Ulster was a process by which Scottish and English settlers confiscated land from the Gaelic Irish. This was seen as a way to stop rebellion in the north, as Ulster had been a region of Ireland most resistant to English rule. Although there had been plenty of plantations in Ireland throughout the years, the plantation of...
Oh, so that area was most resistant to English rule? Damn. So they were originally the most resistant. Interesting.
Ulster was by far the most successful, and within just a few decades the Protestant colonist population was thriving and even made up a majority in some areas in the north. In 1641, Irish Catholics in Ulster staged a rebellion against the settlers, which led to the Irish Confederate Wars.
I mean, the Irish kind of settled Scotland and then kind of colonized Scotland. It seems like Scotland kind of colonized the island back, at least in that area. But yeah.
Irish Catholic Confederation and the...
That's a cool ass flag. I wish they had this hop on the current flag.
Scottish and English settlers. Most of the island of Ireland was under de facto Irish Catholic rule for several years. This was until 1649 when Oliver Cromwell and his new model army conquered Ireland after overthrowing the English monarchy, executing Charles I and declaring himself Lord Protector of Scotland, England and Ireland. Cromwell ruled over the three kingdoms until his death in 1658. During this time there was more confiscation of land from the native Catholics, and anyone even suspected of being involved in the 1641 rebellion was executed. His son Richard very briefly ruled afterwards, but the monarchy was restored in 1660 when Charles II became king, son of the executed Charles I. Charles II was Protestant, but his brother James II had converted to Catholicism during his time in France, so when Charles II died in 1685, Scotland, England and Ireland once again had a Catholic monarch. At this point, the majority of people in Scotland and England were Protestant, and many were uneasy with James II as their monarch. However, next in line to the throne was his daughter Mary, who was Protestant. This all changed in 1688 with the birth of his son.
Damn, doesn't even matter that much.
The would-be James III, who would undoubtedly be raised Catholic. The only reason his daughter Mary was Protestant was because his late brother and former king demanded she be raised as such. So with this change, it looked like Scotland and England would have a Catholic monarchy for the foreseeable future. The birth of the...
Any children of James Francis Edward Stuart would be placed before Mary Stuart in the line of succession.
King's son sparked what became known as the Glorious Revolution, in which the two major political parties invited William of Orange to invade England and take the throne. William of Orange successfully defeated his father-in-law, who also happened to be his uncle since William and Mary were first cousins, and they took the throne together as William III and Mary II.
They really ate Catholics that much?
King and Queen of England.
You have a foreign monarch rule?
Of course, this also made them King and Queen of...
Not surprised, I mean, the English have German monarchs nowadays.
Ireland, and with a Catholic majority, this was obviously not received well. This started a war in Ireland between the native Irish, led by James II, who were mainly Catholic, against the kingdoms of Scotland and England. The Williamite War in Ireland resulted in victory for King William. For the next century, Catholic majority Ireland was ruled by a Protestant minority, known as the Protestant Ascendancy. In 1707, the Kingdom of Scotland and the Kingdom of England joined to create the Kingdom of Great Britain. And then in 1798 there was an uprising against British rule in Ireland in the Irish Rebellion of 1798, inspired by the French Revolution a decade earlier. The rebellion failed, but it caused a lot of uncertainty on the political situation of Ireland. There were concerns that Ireland might ally themselves with France and break away from British rule. So in 1801, Ireland joined the Union and became the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland. Opposition to the Union was strong and occasionally escalated into violence. The late 1800s saw a rise in demand for self-government, and in 1886 the first Home Rule Bill was proposed. In response to this, the Liberal Unionist Party was created in support of the Union and opposed Irish Home Rule. The bill failed, as did the second bill proposed in 1892, but in 1914 the third Home Rule Bill was passed. But 1914 was also the year in which World War I started, and therefore the bill had to be put on hold. With the British Army still occupied with the war in Europe, Irish Republicans staged a rebellion in Dublin called the Easter Rising, with a goal of putting an end to British rule in Ireland and establishing an Irish Republic. The rising took place over the course of just a few days, but nearly 500 people died, most of whom were civilians. But with far superior numbers, the British Army managed to suppress the rebellion. The result was an unconditional surrender by the rebel forces, and most of the rebel leaders were executed. In the 1918 UK general election, an Irish political party called Sinn Féin, who supported Irish independence, and many of their members had participated in the Easter Rising, won 73 of the 105 Irish seats at the British Parliament. But they chose to not take their seats at the British Parliament and instead decided to form their own Irish Parliament and proclaim an Irish Republic as a newly independent country. The Irish Republic claimed the whole island of Ireland, but there was a lot of support for the Union in the north, especially in Ulster, in which 4 of the 9 counties won a Unionist majority. This led to the Irish War for Independence, primarily between the IRA and the British Army. In 1920, with the war still ongoing, a fourth Home Rule Bill was passed, superseding the third Home Rule Bill that was passed but never implemented. This partitioned Ireland into Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland.
Of course they took more of Northern Ireland. Of course they took more of it, you know. It seemed like a lot of these areas to the west didn't exactly want to be part of the Union.
Northern Ireland consisted of 6 of the 9 counties of Ulster. This was despite 2 of them having a Catholic majority.
Yeah, exactly.
The rest of the island became Southern Ireland. The split was intended to be a temporary solution to the war. So Ireland would remain part of the United Kingdom with Home Rule, but instead of having one Irish Parliament in Dublin, there would be 2, one in Dublin for Southern Ireland and one in Belfast for Northern Ireland. This was an attempt to meet demands of both Irish nationalists and Irish Unionists. And while the Northern Irish government was successfully established, the Southern Irish government was not. The war continued and the Southern Irish government never functioned. The Irish War for Independence lasted for 2.5 years, resulting in a ceasefire and the Anglo-Irish Treaty. The treaty established the Irish Free State, which would become
is this the Good Friday Agreement?
A dominion of the British Commonwealth, along with the likes of Canada, Australia and South Africa, among others at the time. The treaty included the whole island of Ireland, but had an opt-out clause for Northern Ireland, which they immediately exercised, so the short-lived Southern Ireland became the Irish Free State. Some were happy with this situation, but others were not. Many were unhappy that Ireland was still part of the British Empire and wanted total independence. So the Irish nationalists were split between the pro-treaty nationalists and the anti-treaty nationalists. The political party Sinn Féin split into 2 separate parties: pro-treaty Sinn Féin that was happy with the status quo and the anti-treaty Sinn Féin that sought full independence. In the 1922 Irish general election, the 2 political parties that won the most seats were Sinn Féin and Sinn Féin, with the pro-treaty party winning more seats. The disagreement escalated into civil war just 1 year after the end of the War for Independence. Many men who had fought together in Ireland's War for Independence were now on opposing sides of a civil war. The pro-treaty forces emerged victorious, affirming the status of the Irish Free State a British dominion. After the war, the anti-treaty Sinn Féin refused to take their seats at the Irish Parliament in protest of the treaty. Because of this, their leader, Eamon de Valera, resigned from the party and founded a new political party, Fianna Fáil, and they became the dominant political party in Ireland.
After its founding, Fianna Fáil won the most seats in the Irish election for 23 elections in a row. Only in the 2 most recent elections have they failed to win the most
From
seats.
1932 onwards. He strongly opposed the treaty as well, but thought his former party's tactics were not helpful. In 1937, a referendum was held for a new constitution to remove all British ties from Ireland. 56% of people voted in favour, and Ireland adopted a new constitution, becoming a fully independent country. The country changed its name to Ireland. Just Ireland. The country is often referred to as the Republic of Ireland to differentiate itself from the island of Ireland, but its official name is simply Ireland. This was to reflect the fact that Ireland's claimed territory was the entire island, believing the partition of Ireland to be illegitimate. Despite this claim though, Northern Ireland continued as normal, as part of the United Kingdom. Ireland exercised their independence by choosing to remain neutral in World War II, which started just 2 years later. And while that should be the end of the story, there were 3 decades of ongoing violence from the late 1960s to 1990s in a period known as the Troubles. The violence was mainly concentrated in Northern Ireland, but occasionally spilled over into Ireland, England and even mainland Europe. Although the majority of Northern Ireland's population was Protestant and Unionist, there was a substantial minority that were Catholic and Nationalist and wanted Northern Ireland to join the Republic. After 3 decades of conflict between various organisations and thousands of casualties, a ceasefire was called to put a stop to the violence in 1998 with the Good Friday Agreement. The agreement caused the Republic of Ireland to amend their constitution, removing their territorial claim over Northern Ireland, and the British and Irish governments agreed that if a majority of people in
Is this the Good Friday Agreement? I'm not even sure what...
Northern Ireland,
a united Ireland shall be brought about only by peaceful means with the consent of a majority of the people, democratically expressed in both jurisdictions in the island.
wish to leave the United Kingdom and join the Republic, the governments will make it happen. The lasting impact of the Troubles can still be seen today, especially in Belfast, in which there are walls that separate Protestant and Catholic communities, and there is still occasional violence. However, the situation is improving, and the government has made a goal to remove all of these so-called peace walls by the year 2023.
Okay, that was my bad. Okay.
This is the
But yeah, that was pretty interesting, all things considered. Let's check out some of the comments. Back in the 80s, I was walking in Belfast when I was accosted by a masked man brandishing a gun. He asked, "Are you a Catholic or a Protestant?" I replied, "Neither, I'm an atheist." The gunman was silent for a moment, then finally said, "Is that a Catholic atheist or a Protestant atheist?" Bruh. Yeah, shit. Oh man. You don't even know what side this guy's on. You'd be like, "Hey, buddy, are you Protestant or Catholic?" And then just decide your answer based on what he says. So if he says he's a Catholic, yeah, I'm a Catholic atheist. I like that. My parents took me to Newry on holiday in the late 80s. I have never had a more terrifying experience. Soldiers everywhere, afraid to talk in case my very West violent accent would piss people off. They must have got it cheap. For some reason, the question made me laugh to tears. This was during the Troubles. I'm a Catholic agnostic. Oh, man. Hey, but let's just check. What is the Good Friday Agreement? Good Friday Agreement. Let's see. Okay. Our Belfast Agreement is a pair of agreements signed on 10th April 1998 that ended most of the violence and troubles. It was a major development in the Northern Ireland peace process. Northern Ireland's present devolved system of government is based on the agreement. The agreement also created a number of institutions between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, and between the Republic of Ireland and the United Kingdom. Issues relating to sovereignty, civil and cultural rights, decommissioning of weapons, demilitarization, justice, and policing were central to the agreement. The agreement was approved by voters. Okay. The agreement is made of two interrelated documents, both agreed in Belfast on Good Friday. A multi-party agreement, international agreement. The agreement acknowledged that a majority of the people of Northern Ireland wish to remain a part of the United Kingdom, that a substantial section of the people of Northern Ireland and the majority of the people of the island of Ireland wish to bring about a united Ireland. Both of these views were acknowledged as being legitimate. For the first time, the Irish government accepted in a binding international agreement that Northern Ireland was part of the United Kingdom. The language of the agreement reflects a switch in the United Kingdom's statutory emphasis for one of the Union to one for United Ireland. The agreement thus left the issue of future sovereignty over Northern Ireland open-ended. So the agreement reached was that Northern Ireland was part of the United Kingdom and would remain so until a majority of the people, both of Northern Ireland and of the Republic of Ireland, wished otherwise. Should that happen, then the British and Irish governments are under a binding obligation to implement that choice. So once both Irish people and Northern Irish people want to unite, that'll happen. Okay, understood. And yeah. In summary, it was Henry VIII's fault. In summary, it was Henry VIII's fault because he wanted more wives. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Henry was Welsh. Henry, who was Welsh, he needed a male heir. Yeah. As a Scotsman, I think a lot of people are confused. It wasn't exclusively because it wasn't exclusively England, but Britain as a whole. The majority of Protestants in Northern Ireland are descended from Scotland. Well, I mean, the majority of the people in Britain are English, so, I mean, that argument's as especially shown by Brexit, you know. I'm a Swede trying to educate myself a bit about this conflict, and damn, it's been going on for longer than I thought. Give Skåne back to Denmark. Southern Sweden belongs to Denmark. Yeah, it's interesting. Never met an Irishman whom I didn't like. Always the biggest smile and the most welcoming demeanor. Would love to visit someday. Yeah. Although awfully picky sometimes, you know? It's weird how a lot of Irish people don't really like fish, although they're an island nation. Kinda weird. You know, back in the day, especially in like northwestern Ireland, I mean they still eat like seaweed, they like dulse, so, you know. In other parts of Ireland it's not as common, but yeah, I don't see Irish people eating as much seaweed anymore or as much seafood. Kinda sad. 1,000 years of Irish history and under 12 minutes. Impressive. 5 minutes into this video and my head is spinning so bad that I need a pint of Guinness. Bro. Just to confuse Americans, this guy has a Scottish accent. What? He has a Scottish accent? Does he? Shit, I didn't even know that, bro. Honestly, I did not know that. To be honest, if this guy has a Scottish accent, I really did know that. I mean, because some Scottish and Irish accents are kind of similar, so, bro, you can't exactly blame me for this one. Like, Irish people and English people and Scottish people, they can't exactly tell the difference between American accents either. So, like, you can't even say it's that bad. Like, I'm sorry, I thought this guy was Irish. Completely honest, I thought it was Irish. Come on. Why is that confusing? I'm American and my okay, yeah, blah blah blah. Yeah, this guy does not represent all Americans. The videotapes. Anyway, okay. If Aussie Man explained this, he would basically say it's fucked up. Crazy watching this in 2021 as a young person from Belfast, while the city burns due to more sectarian violence. Sectarian violence? Okay, character of a sect. Okay. Makes me sad to just see history repeating, especially after we'd come so far. Yeah. I know this is supposed to be a simplified version, but I'm not even halfway through and I'm totally lost. Well, this somehow made me more confused than before I clicked it. This guy said he's from America, and he wished they taught him more in high school history. They do talk about it, but they pretty much just say, yeah, the Brits and Irish don't. I mean, I learned a bit more about it in school, but I don't remember it all, of course. But yeah, I did learn about this in school, especially the Henry VIII and the IRA and all these other issues. I learned about that in school, actually. So it's a good refresher on that. The story of Ireland reminds me of Edward R. Murrow's comment about Vietnam. If you're not confused by what's going on over there, you don't understand the situation. Yeah, when you realize Southern Ireland is farther north than Northern Ireland. I literally live in a show near Malin, and we call the North the Black North. Interesting. Yeah, that was fun though, all things considered. Respect Ireland and Northern Ireland. Yeah, respect. Fun stuff. Pretty interesting to watch, all things considered. And yeah, respect the Irish. Good stuff. If you enjoyed my reaction, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Any Irish people watching, comment down below with your thoughts. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye bye.